Hello, my name is Danielle Darko, and I'm an integrated language arts major. And today I'm going to be talking about a lesson plan that specifically involves the reading strategy of an anticipation guide. And I think anticipation guides are a great reading strategy to use in the classroom, and they're very versatile because they can be used with basically any text that you're using, but they're mainly to be used with like novels that you're going to be reading. So they're specifically good for the English classroom. So what an anticipation guide is it's basically just a list of statements that the students will choose whether they agree with or disagree with. And so they may be very hard to answer statements, or they could be very simple and students know exactly how they believe right away. But either way, the students need to pick a side and then kind of defend their opinion with some of their background knowledge and experience that they've already had in their life, or even with other books. And so it's a great way to kind of establish that prior knowledge. And I found a cool resource online that this one is kind of a teacher's resource, and it says that the anticipation guide allows the reader to make predictions, helps incite curiosity about the text they read, and introduces important themes in the book thief. It is also a way to prepare a reader prior to a reading assignment by asking them to react to a series of statements related to the book. Students will relate prior knowledge to new information to enhance comprehension, create interest, which stimulates discussion on the topic, and create possibilities for integrating reading and writing instruction. So the students will be handed a guide that looks a lot like this, but it won't be filled out already. And they'll have to choose, like it says on here, agree or disagree. And then their copy will look more like this, because I want them to really focus on this part because they need to be able to back up their claims and state why they believe what they believe, or why they said true or false, or agree or disagree. So some of the statements on this specific one are: friendship runs deeper than simply having fun together. The views of one person can completely move a nation. Words are powerful weapons. Use them with care. Death is ugly and scary. Guilt in our conscience can lead us to do things we wouldn't otherwise do. And those that truly love us would never abandon us. So you see how some of those statements especially can go either way, and some people who have had some background knowledge might go one way, while others who have had a different experience go the opposite direction. And each of them have their reasons for why they think one way or the other. And so after students have spent about, 5 or 10 minutes kind of deciding how they feel about those statements, whether they agree or disagree, and then justifying their responses, they'll be paired up to kind of discuss which way they went and why. And so I think it's important to be able to articulate your opinion and articulate your reasons for why you are agreeing or disagreeing with something. And so that'll be a really essential part of this anticipation guide. So after they've paired up and talked amongst each other, I would do a whole class poll, and I would kind of have some representatives from both sides of every statement state why they agreed or disagreed or said it was true or false. And then we could tally the poll on the board so that students know where the class is at in general. And the important thing is not to look down on someone for agreeing or disagreeing with a statement, but to try to listen to their reasoning for why. And some of the students, as they talk to each other, might even be convinced in the opposite direction than they were previously. And so it'll be a very interesting discussion, and it will provide for future discussions on these themes and topics, because the themes and topics are touched on a lot in the book thief. So each of those statements will be addressed throughout their reading of the novel. And so kind of establishing that prior thinking about it, once they get to those portions in the novel, they can look back at what they said and then they can decide, do I still feel that way, or maybe I've changed my opinion, maybe I've switched to the other side. But they'll also be providing justification throughout if they do switch sides, or even reaffirming what the side that they had already chosen, why they continue to stick to that belief, what in the text reaffirmed their belief. So it's a really good thing to start the novel, but also to continue throughout the novel, and especially after the novel is completed, to go back to, okay, how did I feel about a lot of these topics before I read this book? And how do I feel about them now that I've read it? Has it changed my beliefs at all? And it's really interesting because it also touches on the power of words, and that's the whole theme of the unit, is the power of words. So if students are influenced by this book so much, they'll see the great impact that the words that they've read have had on their own agreeing or disagreeing with these statements. So it really covers a lot of different areas, but one of the standards that it links up with is the student's ability to kind of identify themes and analyze its development throughout the text. So all of those are themes throughout the book Thief, and so the students can identify them as they go throughout and then analyze their development in order to provide justification for their anticipation guide that they started at the very beginning of the novel. So that's kind of the anticipation guide, but the rest of the lesson would still be kind of an anticipation, not a guide, but an anticipation lesson for the book Thief. So after they've kind of done these anticipation guide statements, they will be gaining more background knowledge before going into reading the book Thief. So one of the most important things, I think, to establish background knowledge is the historical context for this book, because it's set in Germany during World War II, and that's a very influential period. So it's really important to make sure that all of the students are on the same page as far as their knowledge of the general concepts and ideas that were displayed by that historical context. So the second standard that I have is to conduct short as well as more sustained research projects to answer a question or solve a problem. So they narrow or broaden the inquiry when appropriate, synthesize multiple sources on the subject, and demonstrate an understanding of the subject under investigation. So students will, in order to meet that standard, they'll be divided into groups of 4 or 5, or however big or small you really want, but ideally keeping them pretty small. And they will be using computers of some sort. So if you have a computer lab in your school, you could go to a computer lab, or if not, if everyone has laptops, that's great too, if the school gives out laptops, so they can each have their own laptop to work on. I guess last resort would be using their own phones, which wouldn't be ideal because it kind of decreases your ability to monitor everything, but if need be, they could use their phones because teenagers are great at looking up information on their phones nowadays. So the students will, each group will be given a topic to research, and the topics that I have listed are World War II and Nazism, Adolf Hitler and Mein Kampf, the Holocaust, Hitler Youth, and the effects of World War II on the German people. And so those are just very broad concepts that they need to have some sort of background knowledge about in order to really appreciate the book and understand where it's coming from and the time period that it's set in. And so they will collaborate using Google Slides, or all the students can talk to one student who compiles information onto a PowerPoint, but they should create a little mini presentation of some sort, either on Prezi or PowerPoint or wherever they feel comfortable doing it. And that will take probably about 15 minutes because I don't want it to go too in-depth, because it is an English class, not a history class, and they should have some prior knowledge, so just kind of jogging their memories and making sure that everyone's on the same page is the goal. So they'll have 15 minutes and they'll do a quick little mini research project, and they'll compile that information onto a presentation for the rest of their peers. So when we come back, we should have about 20 minutes at the end of class, and it'll be like a mini presentation time. So each group will have about 5 minutes to present the information that they have collected together. And the information can be fun facts that they didn't know previously, but the key is to just provide basic concepts and make sure that everyone has a basic understanding of the historical context of the book thief. So after that, I want to continue to keep the students anticipating the book thief. So I will play a book trailer for them of the book thief. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that trailer right now. Okay, so that trailer will kind of help them continue to anticipate what's going to happen, and it gives them sort of an outline to see what's going to happen throughout the novel, but not too much of a giveaway to where they know all of the details. So that will continue to perpetuate that idea of anticipating the novel that we're going to be reading. And last but not least, the students will need to have in mind that when they're reading The Book Thief, they want to pay special attention to the kind of language that's being used, because that is the whole idea of the unit and the whole idea of the anticipation guide. And the historical context is important, but I wanted to focus a lot on the language throughout the unit, so they'll be reminded of that, and they'll be assigned to begin their reading of The Book Thief. So yeah, thank you for watching.